Have you ever wondered how ships get their power when they're out at sea for days or even months at a time? Or where does the drinking water come from for the crew on board? In this video, we will answer these questions and more as we take a look at how ships get their power and water while sailing the oceans. Ships can be powered by various sources of energy depending on their size, purpose, and the length of their journey. However, there are four main methods that are commonly used to power ships. The first method is through the use of fossil fuels such as diesel or heavy fuel oil. This is the most common way to power ships, particularly for large vessels like cargo ships, cruise ships, and tankers. Fossil fuels are burned in engines which drive propellers or water jets to move the ship forward. Smaller boats and ships may use gasoline or propane as their fuel source. The second method is through nuclear power. Nuclear-powered ships utilize the heat generated by nuclear fission to produce steam, which drives turbines connected to the ship's propeller. This method is less common, but has been used by the US Navy and other navies around the world for aircraft carriers and submarines. The third method is through the use of electricity. Electric ships are powered by electric motors that are driven by electricity generated from various sources such as diesel generators, batteries, or solar panels. This method is becoming increasingly popular for smaller vessels due to its efficiency and environmental benefits. And the fourth method is through wind power. Wind-powered ships use sails to harness the power of the wind to move the ship forward. This method is commonly used for sailing ships and yachts. While it's not as efficient as other methods, it's still a popular choice for those looking to reduce their carbon footprint or for those who simply enjoy the romance of sailing. Now let's talk about drinking water. The drinking water for both passengers and crew on ships is typically sourced from one of two main sources: municipal water systems or onboard water tanks. Municipal water systems are used when ships are in port. They can connect to the local water supply to fill their tanks with potable water. However, when ships are out at sea, they rely on the water stored in their tanks. For cruise ships, the amount of water required for passengers and crew can be substantial. A large cruise ship can carry enough water to fill 18 Olympic swimming pools. This water is stored in various locations throughout the ship, including dedicated water tanks and ballast tanks. Cruise ships also have sophisticated water treatment and purification systems to ensure that the water stored in their tanks remains safe and clean for consumption. These systems typically involve a combination of processes such as filtration, chlorination, and ultraviolet disinfection. The process of refueling and replenishing water on cruise ships is carefully planned and coordinated to ensure that there is always enough available for everyone on board. Cruise ships typically have a limited amount of storage space for fuel and water, so it's important to manage these resources carefully. The crew on board a cruise ship is responsible for monitoring the levels of fuel and water and making sure that they are topped up when necessary. When a cruise ship is in port, it can connect to shore-based power and water supply to refuel and replenish its water stores. This is typically done using specialized equipment that allows the ship to transfer fuel and water from onshore facilities directly to the ship's tanks. In addition to managing their own resources, cruise ships must also comply with regulations set forth by international and national authorities regarding the discharge of wastewater and other materials into the ocean. These regulations are designed to protect the marine environment and public health, and cruise ships must adhere to them to avoid penalties and ensure responsible tourism. Overall, the process of refueling and replenishing water on cruise ships is a complex but essential part of ensuring the safety and comfort of everyone on board. With careful planning and management of resources, cruise ships can provide a fun and enjoyable experience for all without harming the environment. Now let's talk about how ships generate electricity. Generating electricity on a ship can be achieved through various methods, each with its own pros and cons. Let's explore some of the most common methods used by ships to generate electricity. One of the most common ways to generate electricity on a ship is by using diesel generators. Diesel generators are powered by diesel engines, which drive an alternator to produce electricity. This is a reliable and cost-effective method, especially for larger ships such as cargo ships and cruise ships. However, it does produce exhaust emissions, which can contribute to air pollution. Another method used by ships to generate electricity is through steam turbines. Steam turbines are powered by high-pressure steam, which drives a generator to produce electricity. This method is commonly used on larger vessels, such as aircraft carriers and other military ships, as well as on cruise ships and other large commercial vessels. It's more efficient than diesel generators, but it requires more space and is more complex to operate. Some smaller vessels, such as sailboats and yachts, may use solar panels to generate electricity. Solar panels are a clean and renewable source of energy, but they are less efficient than other methods, and they're only effective when the sun is shining. Some newer and more advanced ships are now using fuel cells to generate electricity. Fuel cells convert chemical energy from a fuel source, such as hydrogen, into electricity. This method is highly efficient and produces fewer emissions than diesel generators, but it's still in the early stages of development and it's not widely used yet. Additionally, some ships are experimenting with wind-powered electricity generation, using devices such as wind turbines to harness the kinetic energy of wind and convert it into electricity. This method is still in the experimental stages and not widely used, but it shows promise as a clean and sustainable source of energy for ships. Now let's talk about how ships stay cool. Keeping the interior of a ship cool, especially in hot climates, is crucial for the comfort of passengers and the proper functioning of the ship's systems. There are several methods used to keep ships cool, each with its own advantages and disadvantages. One of the most common methods used to keep ships cool is through the use of refrigeration systems. These systems use a refrigerant to absorb heat from the air inside the ship and release it outside. This process is similar to how refrigerators work in homes and businesses. However, the systems on ships are much larger and more complex. One advantage of using refrigeration systems is that they can provide a consistent and reliable way to keep the ship cool. However, they do require a lot of energy to operate, which can strain the ship's power systems. Additionally, these systems use refrigerants, which can be harmful to the environment if they escape. Another method used to keep ships cool is through the use of air conditioning. Air conditioning systems work by circulating a refrigerant through a series of coils, absorbing heat from the air inside the ship and releasing it outside. This method is more efficient than using refrigeration systems since it does not require as much energy to operate. However, it's not as effective at keeping the ship cool in very hot climates. Additionally, air conditioning systems can be noisy and bulky, which can take up valuable space on a ship. A more passive method for keeping ships cool is through the use of natural ventilation. This involves using fans and ducts to circulate air throughout the ship, taking advantage of natural convection currents to move hot air upwards and drawing cooler air from below. This method is more energy efficient than using active cooling systems, but it's not as effective in hot climates or when the ship is in port. Additionally, it can be challenging to design a natural ventilation system that provides adequate airflow throughout the entire ship. In recent years, some ships have started to use evaporative cooling systems to keep the interior cool. These systems work by spraying water into the air, which cools the air through evaporation. This method is highly effective in hot climates, but it uses a lot of water, which can be a problem in areas where water is scarce. Additionally, these systems can be messy and can contribute to the formation of fog and other airborne particulates. As technology advances, new and more efficient methods for keeping ships cool are likely to emerge. However, the best method for a particular ship will depend on a variety of factors, including the climate, the size and layout of the ship, and the budget for cooling systems. If you enjoyed this video, please remember to leave us a like and subscribe to our channel for more informative and entertaining content. And if you have any thoughts or opinions on this topic, please feel free to comment below. We love hearing from our viewers. Thanks for watching.